Hey everyone, welcome to Cross Culture Critic. I'm Chris.
And I'm Joe.
Welcome to the show. Welcome back again.
Yeah, it's been a little while.
It's been about a month. I think it was a month when we recorded before. More than that.
Okay.
Because it was right before I went on vacation. So, yeah, I think last time we'd recorded, I had said, it's been a bit of a delay. We had some deaths in the family. 3 days after we recorded, we had another death in my family.
Are you serious?
My aunt passed away.
So is that why you're always wearing black?
That is why I'm always wearing black. I'm perpetually in mourning.
Jeez.
Or it's clean. I think we had 4 funerals this summer, and I haven't been to funerals in years, and then all of a sudden...
You're a pro.
Yeah, some people have wedding season. We had funeral season this year.
Holy smoke.
All 3 grandmothers, and then my aunt. And
Holy smoke. I'm sorry to hear that, man.
Yeah, thank you. It was, I think I kind of compartmentalized it, and it's just now all hitting me that, they're not here any longer.
Yeah.
So that took a lot of time. I know you've been adapting to a new position. And
yeah.
How's that going?
My job is crazy. It's good in the sense that I'm busy, so I check in the morning, and I punch out. It seems like an hour later, but 8 hours has gone by. But here's the deal. And I was whinging at you about it prior to...
Hey, my heart went out to you, so you can...
I used to have Wednesdays and Thursdays off. Mm-hmm. Wednesdays and Thursdays were my weekends. I now have Saturdays and Sundays off. Everybody thinks that's awesome. It's not. Everybody else plans my weekends. So my weekends between work and home life, since everybody else is off on weekends, that's where weddings are. That's where... Mm-hmm. All sorts, if you want to go do something, it falls on a weekend. So I used to have my Wednesdays and Thursdays. I could just wake up, do whatever I wanted to do. They were literally my days because girlfriends, family, everybody was at work. Kids were at school. I had the day to myself. And now I don't. My days off are spent at cheerleading from 10 in the morning to 6 o'clock at night. And then from 6 o'clock on, whatever someone can pack into my schedule is in there. So I'm a person that likes my time. I like just alone time. I like whatever. And not getting that, I'm starting to freak out.
Yeah, no, I can get that. I have young kids, and there's no alone time when you have young kids. And the same thing, my wife thinks because we're free, we're home, that's a good time to go hang out with family and a good time to go hang out with friends. And I'm like, I like all those people, but I like to stay home with a book or a Netflix or something.
Yeah.
And instead it's, now if I'm home, it's one of the kids running and needing something. They're butt wiped or something like that.
Kids suck.
Oh my gosh, they are such a drag. But
just get rid of them.
I was going to feel bad about that, except, so this morning... Well, there's a whole process with this. 2 weeks ago, I'm changing my daughter's diaper, and she had, taken a pretty big dump.
Okay.
So I'm changing her diaper, and she just starts...
She's 14, right?
She's 14. No, she's 3 next week. But, so she just, I take off the diaper, and I'm like, oh, that's disgusting. That is nasty. She just gone, and she just starts cackling. I'm like, what? Smell my butt. And I just stopped.
She's taking a page out of your son's book.
Don't say that. Pause. Butthead.
Oh, yeah.
So then today I'm changing her diaper, or getting her changed this morning, and she's like, Dada, I'm scared. I'm like, what are you scared of? Your face.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's my 3-nager.
She's been reading a joke book or something.
Yeah, I know.
Huh?
She's like Milton Berle.
Yeah,
Milton Berle.
And not good on the delivery, but she's got the jokes.
Yeah, so my kids are mocking me.
Nice.
My son has curbed his language a little bit.
Yeah.
So, although the other night we were driving around, he's like, Dad, I think my friend said another bad word. And I'm not even thinking. I'm like, well, what did he say? Mother.
Oh, my word.
Yep, that is a bad one.
Yeah, you can chalk that up on the bad side.
Yeah, that's on the list.
Yeah,
Don't
that's
say
up
that
there,
one.
too. That's up there as the bad word.
So yeah, my kids are on my bad side. But, no, you get to a certain age. And especially, when you start getting married and you have girlfriends and stuff, your time is just not your own anymore. And it's, I think for me, I got married when I was 30, so I had my whole 20s. to like build my routine and be lonely, which I complained about all the time. But now I'm like, oh my gosh, if I wanted to, I could just go see a movie on a whim. I could just stay up late and read. I mean, I can't do it now because I got to work.
Yeah. But. I mean, since I graduated high school, I was always with somebody because the insiders, when you're touring, there is no privacy. There's no alone time. There's no, whatever. So I had that, and then I got married at 21. So I was married when I was still in the insiders. When the insiders ended, I went full on into like married life. And just like you said, it's like, you're home on the weekends, but my job, I still had to do things on the weekend. And then, my wife had things for me to do. And then I got divorced, and suddenly I have the freedom and the whatever that I've gotten used to. So now that I got weekends off, it's not a good, like, in my position, everybody, like the seniority position guys, they fight for their weekends. I don't, like, I haven't figured that out yet. I haven't figured out why weekends are good.
I guess conceivably you're home with your kids, but I think we've just been seeing that's why that's also the opposite. I have older kids, so, and plus, like, with my divorce, like, I get my girls like on Sundays, Mondays, and Thursdays. And so like a Friday and a Saturday, like I don't have my girls with me. So, it's odd. It's a really odd thing to start getting used to, just having your off days just planned for you. Now, the other thing I don't get, and I know a lot of guys like this. I don't know if you're like this. I know a ton of guys who I'll talk to them like, well, what are you doing this Saturday? Oh man, I got nothing planned. I'm like, oh, that sounds awesome. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna mow the lawn.
Yeah.
I'm gonna plant a garden. I'm gonna fix that roof. And they get so excited about it. And my wife hears this, and she's like, why don't you get more excited about it?
Yeah.
Like, because that's work.
You're like,
why would I want to
cooking
work?
Dinner?
Yeah, like, why would I want to work on my day off? That sounds just horrible. I'm not a fix.
Yeah, I'm not either. I get in like little bees in my bonnet where like I'll do something, I'll begrudgingly do something on my day off, something that has to be done, cleaning the house, doing laundry. But when it's done, you really do feel good.
Yeah.
And so I try to keep that like, hey, I'm going to do this so when I look back at this week, it'll have been productive. And that usually wins out. Like, I'm usually like, you know what? I'm glad I did this. I'm glad I did that. Like going to the gym. You hate going to the gym, but once you've done it, you're kind of like, yeah, I'm glad I did it. And then you don't want to go the next day and, all that stuff. But, yeah, I enjoy just sitting, watching movies, playing video games, going, play drop-in hockey, something that, and I can't do any of that anymore.
Yeah, I guess I never played drop-in hockey. But, yeah, video games, and if we had more video games, reading books, watching movies. I would love to do that on a Saturday.
Yeah.
I do what you're saying, though, about on Saturday mornings, my wife will usually go out to, like, prayer group or something like that, and that's kind of my time to clean the house. And I like doing that. Like, you feel good when that's done.
That I kind of do.
My kids are 3 and 6, though, so
you clean a room and then it's destroyed.
It stays clean for about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Cutting the lawn is the other one where I kind of have a love-hate. Like, I hate going out there, because we have a half an acre and I have a push mower. So, so it's about an hour and a half of work.
Oh, how rather hipster of you.
Yeah, no, it's how rather cheap of me. But, so I'll be sweaty and tired, but it looks really good by the time it's done.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're old and lazy, so that's okay.
Yeesh.
So, one thing I want to talk about today, because it's kind of easing back in, I'd rather do like a fun one on the way back in. You had talked a few months ago on Facebook, you were going to show your daughters the Dark Knight trilogy.
Yes.
Did you end up doing that?
Yes.
How did that go?
We watched the first one, which they liked. We watched the, so Batman Begins. They liked it, but Batman Begins is definitely the least of the three.
Yeah.
Like, it's the worst of the three. And it's not bad at all. I love that trilogy. But it's the worst of the three. One thing I always have to, I guess, brag about, or not brag about, but get excited about maybe, is, I don't know how, but my Dark Knight, I have the Dark Knight trilogy on Blu-ray. It's a box set that came with all this extra stuff. I got it for $11 on Amazon. I don't know how. It was like, I think it was one of those deals like leading up to Christmas.
Okay.
And so I ordered it. For $11, I got this amazing box set. And so I always have to say that when I talk about this trilogy. But so we watched Batman Begins, and the kids were like, this is good, but like, okay. The whole villain like wasn't the greatest and all that.
Do you think part of it, too, is they didn't have to wait for a good Batman movie? Because we had like, Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
And so then we sit for, like, 20 years, or 10 years, just like...
Yeah, Mr.
Batman
Freeze.
sucks.
Arnold Schwarzenegger is Mr.
Everybody
Freeze.
chill.
And then, so we watched that. Then we watched The Dark Knight.
Okay.
And with, obviously, Heath Ledger as the Joker. And the kids just kind of didn't get into it.
Really?
Like, yeah, they were like, eh. Like, I think my youngest, it was probably a little bit more, I don't want to say scary, but heavy.
Yeah, it's intense.
Than she was expecting. So that was kind of her first step into like PG-13, kind of like heavier movies. So she about half of the way, maybe even 3/4 of the way through the movie, she just got up and left and was like, I'm kind of done with this. And my oldest, like, saw it through. And then, like, the next day we were going to watch Dark Knight Rises, or, whatever the third one was with Bane and all that. And they were like, nah, let's watch something else. And so we never watched it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we never ended up finishing it. There's been a few times, I think 2 or 3 times, I'm like, hey, you want to watch the last Batman? Because I think that one's the best. I don't really like the Heath Ledger one. I know that sounds crazy, but I don't really like it. And then the Bane one, the third one, I love. That's my favorite. But the girls, like, yeah, they were just like, nah. They would like rather watch something else. Or
now, are they Marvel fans?
They do love Marvel.
I wonder if that's the difference, because I remember. So Dark Knight came out 2008, so same year that Marvel started doing everything with Iron Man. So same year. And I wonder if people who like Marvel and that's kind of what they've grown up with, if they look at those Batman movies and like, yeah, it's kind of boring. That's a little too serious. I like the humor. I like the laughing.
Yeah, it might be. It might just be too heavy of a movie when Marvel brings in jokes and they have all kind of like a little comic relief when things get heavy. But yeah, that's just kind of how that went. It just kind of fizzled out.
That's kind of sad.
Now, my daughter did get, like, I forget what triggered it, but she did something this summer. She was like, I got her for Christmas. I got her this book. It's like everything you want to know about Star Wars.
Okay.
Because in the fall, like The Last Jedi had come out, and she was like, Dad, I really want to learn more about Star Wars. Like, within a week, I found this book, Everything You Need to Know About Star Wars. And the book sets everything up, like, really good. It puts things in, like, chronological order. It's just a fun book. If you're a Star Wars fan, it's just a lot of fun to the way this book is set up. And so she just started, like, reading through the book and going through everything. And she's like, Dad, I'm like, really fired up I want to watch them all in order. So we watched them, like, the prequels to Rogue One, and then A New Hope, and Empire, Jedi, and then after Jedi would have been what?
That would have been Force Awakens.
And then the Last Jedi.
Okay.
So
Solo's really the only one she didn't see.
Yeah, so Solo she hasn't seen. Oh, no. We did see that in theater.
That's right. That's right. You told me that.
But we didn't see it, like, in order, like, obviously, like, on, like...
So Star Wars, she's took into it?
Yeah, so she digs it. She's all in, and then we have, like, the video game, that Battlefront 2. Okay. And they just did a big update on that, so it's got all these new maps and new characters and all this stuff. And so I've been like, I'll be making dinner and I'll peek in, and she'll be playing that.
Nice.
So yeah, she's digging her Star Wars lately.
That's good. I remember when I was growing up, like, you didn't want to mention you liked Star Wars. Like, it was the nerds, which never made sense to me. Because, like, oh, you're a nerd, you like Star Wars. And I didn't see Star Wars until I was in high school, so I didn't really have a leg to stand on there. But even then, I was thinking, Star Wars made more money than any other... So, I'm guessing everyone likes Star Wars, and...
Yeah.
Like, how can how can it be this niche nerd thing if it's the most popular thing in the world?
Well, I just think like anything in this world, once something is underground, everybody loves it. But once it goes mainstream and everybody likes it, then you're a nerd. Plus, like back in the day when like we were in high school and stuff like that, it was like you were either a jock or a nerd. You know, you either liked music, you were into nerdy stuff, or you were a jock. Like, you kind of fit into one of those categories. And, you know, and then like a subgroup of them. So if you were like one of the music kids, you could either be like a burnout who listened to, you know, punk and metal, or you were like a hip hop kid, or you were, you know, something in there like a techno kid. And then the jocks just did jock things. And then there were the kids playing like Magic the Gathering. And
see, those were the nerds what I could call nerds.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, oh, you're playing that nerd, and you're going to hell because you're playing Magic.
Right, exactly. Playing those demon games.
Did I ever tell this on the podcast about my Dungeons and Dragons experience?
If you have, tell it again.
All right.
I can't remember it.
So in middle school, I had a friend who wanted me to play Dungeons and Dragons. Uh-huh. And so I go to my parents, I'm like, hey, can I go to this guy's house and we're going to play some Dungeons and Dragons? And my parents flipped out. Like, they were like, no, you will not go play Dungeons and Dragons. I'm like, I realized I can't say the word dungeons. And I'm like, why? What's wrong with it? Well, it's evil, and you will get sucked into evil things if you play it. So next thing I know, I'm hauled into my youth pastor's office because he is worried about my soul because I want to play Dungeons and Dragons.
And he plays a Carmen video for you.
No, he gave me a book about people who played D&D and committed suicide or committed murders. People, Yes, they probably started listening to heavy metal.
Yeah.
So I never got to play D&D, and I've actually always been kind of curious about it.
Yeah, I have friends down the street that were huge metalheads. They were like a metalhead family. They were three brothers, Ricky, Robbie, and Ronnie. And so they were each
those are like metalhead names.
Yeah,
too.
They were each like 2 years apart. And it was actually Ricardo, Roberto, and Ronaldo.
Oh, that's
They
awesome.
were a very Italian family. But they went by Ricky, Robbie, and Ronnie. And so these kids, like Ronnie, who was like my best friend growing up, and he shared a room with Robbie, and then the oldest, Ricky, got his own room. They were all about Iron Maiden. Like, they had Iron Maiden posters all over their rooms. They were all into like... playing metal guitar, all this stuff. But they were heavy into D&D.
Okay.
And it was the same thing. Like, my parents would not let me play with them. And Ricky and Robbie, they were, like, all in on Dungeons & Dragons. But they had the thing where, like, they had the network of friends where it wasn't, like, two guys like, hey, you want to do this? They had, like, a group of, like, probably, like, 6 or 7 guys that if me and Ronnie were hanging out, we saw this group of like 6, 7 dudes all playing, and it looked like a ton of fun. And I was never allowed to play it. Well, then I hit junior high, and there was this hobby shop that we all went to where you got all the D&D stuff. Well, then they started carrying, like, Marvel came out with a game.
Okay.
And then this game came out called Recon. And so we started playing Marvel for a while, and it was just like Dungeons & Dragons. But instead of being like an elf or a whatever, you were Iron Man or Wolverine. And same thing.
That sounds even cooler.
Yeah, it was. And then they came out with another one that got me and my friends at school got even more into it. And like I said, it was called Recon. And it was Dungeons & Dragons, but it was the Vietnam War. And so you created a character.
Roll 5, get a flashback.
Exactly. That's what it was. And so you created a character, and so I had my friends, and by this time there was like 6 of us, and you created this like Vietnam era fighter, and like all day in school, like you'd draw him and you'd say like what he had, and in your mind you just think like, okay, he's got his boots and his cargo pants on, and he's wearing like the olive tank top.
Yeah.
My guy has a helmet with cigarettes.
Your social studies teacher comes like, who told you about him?
Exactly. He's had a picture of me. He's got a necklace with an ear on it. And so, but that was the game that we loved. And so we would get together like on half days and stuff like that. And we would all play Recon, and there'd be one, Dungeons & Dragons. It was like the dungeon master. I don't know what it was in this game, but it was like the guy who's like, okay,
so
you
like
dropped into the jungle, and that was so awesome. And
Charlie's in the tree.
Yeah, you were like rolling the dice, and if you were a sniper, you had to roll, this number to. And the other thing that was cool was in the book. In the book, it had a picture of like a figure, like a human, and the figure was all broken into different like pieces, and so like the main area, like the chest, it would have like a number next to it, and then it would get down to all these other numbers. So if you rolled the dice, that's what you had to roll.
Okay.
If that's what you were aiming at. So if you're like, okay, I'm a sniper, I'm gonna go for the guy's head. Okay, well, at this distance and this, there was something that factored it. And it's like you have to roll on a 20-sided dice. You have to roll like a 3 or less to make that shot. And you'd be like, I'm taking it. And, you'd roll it. And it was like in slow motion, wait for that 20-sided die to stop. It'd land on a 2, and you're like, oh, headshot. I hit this guy at half a mile, whatever. And so we just had a blast playing that. And like, at that point, we had like totally forgotten about Dungeons and Dragons. I wasn't hanging out with Ronnie anymore because he went like metalhead and smoking and drinking and all that stuff. But I had fun playing like the Marvel and the Recon.
If I could go back in time, and I'm sure someone tried this, all these Christians who were unable to play Dungeons and Dragons, I would create and sell like Christian version of a role-playing game where it's like, instead of, I don't know, like wisdom and, power and strength, you'd have like, fruit of the Spirit, you have a little bit of grace, a little bit of love.
Game. They had a game that was like Magic the Gathering. It was called Redemption.
Really?
And so when the Insiders were touring, we were at some festival, I want to say like Creation, and we got invited to this thing. And the makers of the game Redemption, I don't want to say sponsored us, but we would talk about the product at festivals, and they would give us product.
Okay.
So we had these huge, like each one of us got like a box of packs of cards. Do you understand what I'm saying? That like you got the box that had the packs inside.
Right, like they would resell them at the stores.
Yeah. And so we would like they gave each one of us like a box or two. So I think in each one had like 36 packs. And so we basically had all these different ones, and it'd be like, oh dear Lord, my phone's ringing.
Charlie.
And So we had basically, 2 boxes of these cards. So we had everything. Like we had almost every card you could think of.
Okay.
And then at the festivals in the summer, they would have tournaments. Well, our guitar player, Kyle, he's like the type of guy, he like loved Rubik's Cubes. He loved thinking games. He loved that. So this game became like a thing for him. To where he made the perfect deck. He would be one of the like Christian music guys that you could play against, that was in these tournaments. And his deck was like amazing. And he won one of the tournaments, and they ranked him nationally. So our guitar player at one point was like the number 1
redemption
player. And so we had this, and we all got into it for like, I want to say 2 weeks.
Okay.
2 weeks, we had our decks, we were playing in the truck and everything. And then it was like the king's new clothes, or whatever that story is. Like one day someone was just like, that seems dumb. And like,
shut up, you're dumb.
Yeah, and then slowly our trumpet player and I, we were the first ones where I was like, I'm just going to get rid of my deck. So we had these cards given to us, so I'm not going to charge anybody. So I'm like, who wants my deck? So the other guys in the band were like, I do. One guy was like, I'll give you $10 for it. So at that point, it started this like bidding. So it got up to $50. So I sold all my cards that I got for free 2 weeks earlier for $50 to our road manager. Our trumpet player, Bram, he like 3 days later decided to sell his, and there was no longer a bidding war.
Awesome.
So he was like, hey, I'll give mine away if anybody wants them. So the other guy who lost out on the bid, our driver, I'll take them. There was nobody to be like, no, I will.
But who are they playing with at that point?
At that point, there was like 3 guys in the truck. There was our driver, Jaybird. There was John Hale, our road manager, and there was Kyle Wassel, our guitar player. Those were the 3 guys playing it.
Okay.
After about another week, Jaybird was done. It came down to Johnny and Kyle, and then they both fizzled out. So I made $50 on the whole thing. And but it was a cool game. It wasn't corny. Like, it wasn't... I want to sit here and like the cynical, how we like.
Was it like angels and stuff, or?
Yeah, it was like. I mean, it would be something like, like there was a. The way the game was set up, I believe, if I'm remembering right, like you would be the evil side, and I would be the good side, and then you'd like switch after that game. You'd switch, and then you'd be the good, and I'd be the bad. And so you had 1 deck for each.
Okay.
And so, like, let's say you might get, like, I don't know, like, you might get the Apostle Paul. And then you could, like, upgrade him by, like, he could use the breastplate of righteousness, the sling of David. He had this, like, protection. And then, like, if the evil decided they were playing with the king of Tyre, and they had something added to him that made him more strong, like everything like countered.
See, that actually sounds, I don't want to say cool, but fascinating.
And the thing is, it wasn't corny. Like, none of the guys, it wasn't like, oh, you're being beaten by the love of Jesus. Like the love of Jesus.
You've earned the power of grace.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't like that. It was like cool. And the stuff and the cards... The art on the cards was really cool. And I don't know, like maybe you're sitting here listening and you remember the game and you're like, no, Joe, you're wrong. It was corny. I don't remember it being corny. I remember it being a fun game. And for what it was at least respectable. Like it wasn't like, oh my gosh, the love of Jesus has won out.
Oh, see, because in my version of the game I was going to make just 5 seconds ago, it would be like, not Paul, or it would be like, you're a missionary going to the tribe, and do you have what it takes to go into the harsh city of Detroit and the people who are smoking and drinking? And
you enter into Mr. B's. You see a guy sitting by the
do you quote Romans 3 or Romans 6?
You have to roll under a 12 in order to be able to recite it perfectly.
If you don't get a 10, you don't get into heaven.
That's funny.
Wow. Yeah, I was sure something like that had to exist because there was so much like Christian kids weren't allowed. Like I wasn't allowed to watch He-Man.
Uh-huh.
Like my dad, he was so offended. My dad would kind of go in and out of things that offended him.
Uh-huh.
And one of those was He-Man because only God is the master of the universe.
Right.
So I was never allowed to watch He-Man. She-Ra was okay. Even though she was He-Man's cousin,
yeah.
So, but whatever.
I'm in the same boat. My mom didn't like me watching He-Man. I would sneak it in every now and then because the kids at school would be talking about it. And I'd sneak it in like at a friend's house or something. But anything my mom ever told me not to do, I pretty much wouldn't do it. But then if I did it, I wouldn't like what I was watching anyway. Because maybe it was the guilt, like I felt so bad. But like I never... She told me not to watch He-Man, so I didn't watch He-Man. But when I did, like, I was just like, I don't really like this.
I finally went back a few years ago. It was on Netflix. I'm like, I'm going to see what all the fuss is about with this He-Man. And it's pretty terrible. It's a pretty terrible thing. Ninja Turtles, they had no problem with. Because that was science and not spirituality.
Exactly. It was evolution.
Yeah. My dad went in and out of, every few years he tried to go on the kick where we couldn't celebrate Halloween. Mm. And we always wore him down on it. But he would always say, no, it celebrates the devil. No. He didn't want to take us out trick-or-treating. He didn't want to have to go out when it was cold and go trick-or-treating. That was what I remember the most.
The things that I remember that my mom was like, you're not participating in this. I wasn't allowed to listen to metal.
Okay.
Couldn't play Dungeons and Dragons. Couldn't watch He-Man. I couldn't watch Married with Children. I wasn't allowed to watch that show.
Yeah.
And there was... I think that's about it. I think those were like the things that like my mom was just like, this is a no.
Okay. My parents were a big no on Simpsons.
Yeah, I never got that.
Yeah, my parents were big into and that was one they stuck with for about 5 or 6 years. Was no Simpsons in the house because Bart was an underachiever and proud of it, and he swore and stuff like that.
He said, "Eat my shorts."
He said, "Eat my shorts." I think the thing they got offended is when he said, "I'm Bart Simpson. Who the hell are you?" And that was like shocking to them.
Right.
And I find that funny because I don't think there has been a single thing in pop culture that has been more influential to me than The Simpsons.
Oh, my kids found it over the summer.
Okay.
So over the
summer...
Old
episodes are new?
Old.
Okay.
So on Hulu, it has all the seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And I had started watching when obviously I didn't go back to season 1. I went to once the animation got good. And, stuff like that. It kind of, all the characters kind of refined. So whatever season that was, I started watching. And the girls came in one day, and I was like, no, I'll just keep it going. And they're sold. Whenever there's a little bit of, hey, what do you guys want to watch? Can we watch a few episodes of The Simpsons?
They're high school now, right?
I have a freshman and a 7th grader.
Okay. And so they can get it.
They love Simpsons. Yeah. They love Simpsons. I remember I took Ella when she was young. She's 14 now, so however old she was when the Simpsons movie came out, I took her to it. She has no recollection of it, and it was on Netflix. So I turned it on there. That was their introduction. Mm-hmm. We watched the Simpsons movie that just came out, whatever. I think that came out 10 years ago.
It's 2007, July 27th, 2007.
11 years ago.
My birthday.
Okay, so she was 3 or 4, so that's why she doesn't remember. And so it was on, Netflix. We watch it on Netflix, and the girls love it. And they're just like, how come there's not more movies of this? Or I want to know more about this guy. And I'm like, it's a cartoon.
There's 30 years of it.
Exactly. And so they're like, what? And so then after that, they walked in. I was watching it. And they're absolute fans of The Simpsons.
I have a very vivid memory of I had to have been in 4th or 5th grade because I was a safety guard. And so I'm on my little post, and we had our adult helper there. And I remember she's like, did you guys see that show last night, The Simpsons? And it was the premiere of The Simpsons. She's like, that show is so funny. I was 4th or 5th grade. Show's still on. It's not good, but FX. I think FXX shows, every few nights they'll do 3 or 4 hours straight of Simpsons. Mm-hmm. And when they first got the rights, they did a marathon where I think it was 12 days. They showed every episode back to back.
Holy cow.
And so I set my DVR crazy to get.
Oh, I remember you telling me about this.
Yeah, and it was like heaven. There would be hours where I would sit for 4 or 5 hours just watching old Simpsons episodes.
Yeah, you can. You absolutely can.
Yeah. So I wasn't allowed to watch that. We had McGee and Me instead. Do you remember McGee and Me? It was the Christian version of this. So this episode's gone a totally different tangent than I thought, and a much better one. So McGee and Me was basically and you can find, I think it's probably on YouTube somewhere, it was this little sitcom about this kid named Nick, and it was live action, and he was an animator, so he drew this little thing that came to life, and it was his conscience.
Okay.
So imagine he's got this little cartoon buddy who runs around, and he's like, yo, Nick, the Bible says we shouldn't go do this, and he's like, oh, you're right, and I was so wrapped up in that. It was probably not.
So it was like Davy and Goliath.
Sort of. Yeah, although it was more in the style of Full House, the family stuff. So there's this family sitcom, and then just
what
animated kids. No, it was VHS. It was Focus on the Family on VHS.
Oh, wow.
It wasn't on TV. I think they did have it on a few episodes on TV, and they cut all the Bible stuff out. But yeah, I remember that. We had feature films for the family. Do you remember that at all?
No.
That was a video subscription my mom subscribed to where they would mail us videos. And it was either they made their own family films, which there was one I remember called The Buttercream Gang. Oh. And it was about this gang of kids who, instead of joining a gang where they went out and did bad stuff, they went and did good stuff.
I want to be a part of that gang.
So, yeah, it was called the Buttercream Gang because in the 1800s, all the good kids used to help the old ladies churn butter. So I remember that. Or they would take movies and just cut all the swearing and stuff out of them.
Oh.
So you could get like Hoosiers without the alcoholic subplot or something like that. Oh, man. It was weird growing up. Yeah. Yeah, I think they still actually have... They actually have VHS players or DVRs that will take all the bad stuff out of a movie for you. Like, it's kind of crazy. I don't know the legality of that, but...
Wow.
It's like if you wanted to watch Clerks... You could watch a PG version of Clerks that's probably like 3 minutes long.
Right,
but
right, exactly.
I would think at that point, if you wanted to watch Clerks and you didn't want to watch it with the swearing...
How about Showgirls?
5 seconds long of Showgirls.
It's the opening credits and then the end credits.
Yeah. It's like 2 seconds of Elizabeth Berkley like pouring ketchup on her fries, and that's the end of the movie. That's all I remember about that movie. I think I caught it on E! once.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. Oh, music was big too. We could not listen to... I remember my brother got in so much trouble for having Green Day.
Oh, really?
Yeah, oh, yeah. Him and my dad made him break them and throw them out. And I was like on my high horse with him, like, why do you listen to that crap, Ryan? That's going to rot your brain. You know what you need to listen to? I got a little Carmen here.
Listen to this.
Listen to this. This is gonna.
He's just like Green Day, but better.
I was like the worst version of that girl in Garden State who's like taking her headphones off and listen to this. It's gonna change your world. Addicted to Jesus.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I wasn't allowed to listen to metal, and the first metal album that my sister snuck in was Metallica's Black Album.
Okay.
And she would listen to it, and I'd hear it through the wall. And I was like, what is she listening to? And so then I stole the tape from her. And then the next thing I know is she had Poison open up and say, that album. And then she had Motley Crue, the Motley Crue album that had like Girls, 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 that album. And so I didn't really take the Motley Crue one. I listened to Metallica and Poison, and then I never got my hands on, because I think she was probably like, dude, I've had 2 tapes stolen by my brother already. So I never got the Motley Crue one, but she would listen to that one. And then later on in life, when I was in the Insiders, I started listening to all this metal that I never was able to listen to growing up. And then you meet other musicians, and the guys from Squad 5-0, they turned me on to a ton of stuff. And suddenly, like, here I am in the Insiders, traveling across the country. I'm buying, like, used Motley Crue CDs, across the country. Cinderella. I'm trying to think, other bands. Maiden. All sorts of things, Scorpions. And then just listening to all that I was never allowed to listen to. And some of it, like, I no longer listen to. But, like... Metallica, Poison, and Motley Crue, they'll always have a place in my heart, man. I love them.
I think I did that a lot with movies. Like, I was so sheltered on what I could see that by the time I turned 18 or 19 and I was able to just, see whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
Like, it was like jumping into the deep end, like, before I was even ready for it. So, I'm like, oh, yeah, I want to see an R-rated movie where they swear. I'm going to get Clerks and Chasing Amy, which is really pushing me into the deep end. Or I'm going to see a scary movie. I'm going to rent The Last House on the Left, which is like horrible. I don't know if you've ever seen it. Old Wes Craven movie, like rape and murder and hopelessness. And I always felt like if my parents had given me a little more leeway, I probably would have made better choices and like not jumped into the deep end. I would have like warmed up a little bit and had more discernment. But they like didn't teach me discernment. They just taught me no and yes. And then it's kind of like, okay, well now it's yes, so I'll just consume everything.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a good way to do it. They also let me have a Billy Joel album. Ooh. Which here's the thing. I've gone back and listened to some old Green Day, and I like Green Day a lot. I've seen them in concert a lot. There's some swearing, but there's not a ton of bad stuff on there.
Right.
Billy Joel... You don't let a kid listen to some Billy Joel. Captain Jack.
Right.
Like your sister's gone out, she's on a date, so you sit at home and masturbate.
Right.
Like, when I'm 10, I don't, I'm just singing it and happy. But...
Captain Jack is going to get shot.
Yeah. Or Only the Good Die Young, which is about seducing a Christian girl to give up her virginity.
Yeah.
And no, we listen to it, so it's not bad.
Right. Uptown Girl. just snatching some wealthy trophy wife away from some dude because you can put it to her better.
And my dad, why don't you listen to the wholesome groups like Queen?
Right. My daughter loves Queen.
I like Queen a lot.
Ella loves Queen. Yeah, like she takes bass lessons, and I forget the bass player from Queen. But I'm not a big Queen fan, but she is. And she's like, I want to be able to play bass like the guy from Queen. I'm like, nice. Okay, yeah, shoot for the stars.
She going to go see the Queen movie when it comes out?
I'll see it first. Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably she'll have to be a little bit older, but yeah.
Well, I think that went in a totally different direction than I thought this episode was going to go, and a much better one. I did not anticipate talking about my childhood prohibitions as much. But we are back on a schedule, so I think we can do this more regularly now.
Yeah.
And so you can expect shows from us hopefully every week, and we will be back next week.
All right.
See ya.
See ya.